Hello everybody, welcome to the West Ham Way YouTube channel. It's the fans' voice. Look, full house tonight. It's ridiculous, isn't it? Look, there's 6 of us on the screen ready to discuss everything West Ham, or at least 3 key aspects of West Ham this week. I'm going to come to each of you around the house to see how you all are. Jeff, how you doing, mate? Long time no see.
Yeah, I'm good, mate. It's a nice turnout, isn't it? It's almost like there's nothing better to do at the moment, isn't it?
Exactly. No, it's not like PSG or Barca's on. Bill, how you doing, mate?
Yeah,
Good
very
after
well,
that?
thanks. Yeah, all good, yeah.
Lovely. Dennis, how we doing?
I'm just grand, mate. Long time no speak.
Yeah, speaking more than my parents. Charles, how you doing?
Yeah, loving it, especially after that beautiful victory against Leeds. Top performance. Go again.
Yeah, absolutely lovely to ride our luck in the majority of games recently. And Supersonic Mark, how are we doing, mate? The one with the best background.
Yeah, very well, thanks, mate. Great time again, and to be a Hammer again. Brilliant. Loving it.
Yeah, look, we're still in top 4 contention, lads. I'm not going to jinx it too much, but we are still there and thereabouts. I can now go on this show with other London clubs, and West Ham keep on winning, so it means that I don't lose my dignity and have to sort of slide slowly down the table. But let's talk quickly about that Leeds United result just in terms of where that leaves us. I mean, it felt like we rode our luck a little bit in that second half, but I think it's been a key aspect of this West Ham side this season where we just turned up in moments. Craig Dawson scored a phenomenal goal from a set piece, unreal header. And we just keep chugging along, guys. It looks like maybe we could be in and around that top 4 towards the end of the... Go on, Dennis.
Yeah.
Leave the floor open. I did a lot
Just
of
leave
talking
it
on Monday night, mate.
Oh, okay, cool.
I thought it was a decent performance. Obviously, it wasn't the best. Obviously, Deck said it pretty well at the end, didn't he? But, I know we scrambled and got one off the line and a couple of good saves and all the rest of it. But at the same time, we hit the woodwork a couple of times as well. So it was a pretty open game, as you expect against Leeds. And to be honest, it was nice that we went toe-to-toe with them. We didn't sort of try and sit back, hold a shape, nick the ball and go. We just went toe-to-toe, had an open game of football, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm sure, despite the result, probably the Leeds fans enjoyed it, although they found it frustrating. It's a good end-to-end game of football, and obviously the result, I think we weren't lucky, but we were fortunate that the result went our way because anyone could have won it on the day, couldn't they?
Yeah, no, it was a real open game. I think first 20 minutes when they had 2 disallowed goals, I was thinking, I'm not sure what's going on here, and I don't know because Deck said it in that post match. He was saying obviously we've had 10 days off. We don't know if we was a little bit sluggish, but I was just saying, and Charles and Dennis can attest to it on the watch along, saying if we just get to 20 minutes, we'll be all right. 20 minutes comes around and we get a pen, and all of a sudden we're back in it.
Yeah. It was quite strange, wasn't it? Both of the first and the second half, the sort of first 15, 20 minutes, we were very, very slow out of the blocks, which has been a bit unlike us for most of the season. But ultimately, obviously we took our chances, and luckily for us, Leeds were pretty awful in front of the goal. Obviously, apart from I'm a bit unfortunate probably with certainly the first disallowed goal, just the bootlegs I think was offside, weren't it? But yeah, obviously great delivery from Craig for the second goal, and performance weren't the best, but sometimes it's all about just digging in and hanging on in there and getting the 3 points, and that's obviously exactly what we did. So great times. Yeah,
no, definitely. Any thoughts on Jesse Lingard deciding to take that pen? I didn't think it was his duty at the time, and obviously it's got to be Declan back on duty, surely.
Yeah, he wanted to take against Sheffield United, and obviously Deck overruled. And I think Deck should take him for the rest of the season after a pretty average penalty won it by Jesse Lingard, but obviously done well to get the rebound. But I think it should. I think it should be on him now.
Yeah, definitely. Let's kick him off it. Let's put Declan back on it. Look, we don't get too many penalties, and I think the fact that Mike Dean gave us a penalty, we were quite fortunate.
and Mike Dean actually ref the game well.
Yeah, did anyone see what Luke Ayling apparently said to the ref? He was saying, "Oh, you only give decisions to the big clubs," and that just shows you how far West Ham have come this season.
We will take that.
Yeah.
We're massive.
Just going to say as well, I was a little bit surprised Antonio didn't take it. Personally, I thought, Mickey would have been the designated taker instead of Noble because of last season. But if Rice wants to take him, and it could be a thing to keep Rice happy if he's got a goal bonus in his contract or anything, or just to get on the score sheet, it could be that we've given him some penalties, because I believe I remember some analysis X and Dave had on a podcast a while ago where they said that the reason why Dek is getting a bit further up the field instead of Soucek is because Dek wants to add goals to his game. He's a bit sick of being told he can only pass a couple of sideways. That's why he was blasting them from range. So again, I'm more than happy for Dek to take them. I was just surprised Mickey didn't. That's all.
Mickey's a bit suspect for being on penalties.
I think Antonio took the one.
Yeah, Man United, wasn't it? Away.
Yeah, he scored it.
Yeah, I think that was that he got his 10th goal, wasn't it? And that was, as Dennis has just alluded to with Declan Rice, that was his goal bonus for Antonio. Personally, I think Declan Rice, and I think he come out in his interview on Sky afterwards that Rice will be back taking the penalties. I don't think David Moyes was particularly impressed with that. Fortunately for Lingard, he got away with it, obviously getting follow-up, but otherwise it could have been a little bit in a worse situation for us.
Yeah, definitely. Stick to it, Declan. No more changes. Let's talk about Lukasz Fabianski. Everyone knows that he signed a 1-year deal at the club. I'm a bit surprised. I thought it would have been 2, if I'm honest. I don't think he's that old, and in terms of his form this season, again, he's been brilliant and he's been consistent. So I would have thought maybe we would have got into it. For me, I just want to know your lads' opinions on it. Do you think that's too short in terms of just having the 1 year? Would you have gone maybe 2 years, give us a bit of time to bring someone in? Go on, Dennis. See it at the bottom.
Yeah, I was advocating for a 2-year deal. That way we can afford to have, for example, Trot go out of the Championship, which is the next logical step in his development. He had a year in League One Wimbledon, arguably did very well. If he's not going to get game time at West Ham, I'd rather him be in the Championship than the under-23s. And you've got a Nang as emergency backup, or maybe we bring someone in as a short-term third choice if when we don't renew Martin. And then the second year is so when Trot comes back to be training with Fabianski and potentially overtaking him. You know, that's the way I was looking at it. Or you bring in Dubravka, Sam Johnson, and then have a conversation later down the line, you know, regarding Trot and Nang and Heji. But 1 year also speaks to me that maybe Fabianski himself isn't too sure what's going to happen. He might, you never know, he might want to go back home and play for his boyhood club, Liga Warsaw again, which again, he's plenty capable of playing that sort of level. So who knows? I mean, we're giving both him and Noble a 1 year deal. Maybe we could be saying goodbye to them at the same time.
Oh God, I don't think I can't get rid of Fabianski as well at the same time as Noble.
I'll be torn. Do I wear a Noble shirt? Do I wear like a paper mache red wall to the final game? You know, cosplay as Fabianski.
I just think like we just don't.
In my head.
You know, listen, mate, I appreciate the effort, but now look, at the end of the day, Fabianski, I know we always go, it's getting old, but in goalkeepers' terms, you can go on probably to your late 30s, so it's a bit surprising for me, and I think we will get European football this season, and I don't think a goalkeeper is going to be up there on the priority list, and I'm a bit thinking now, hang on a minute, is that going to leave us short? Possibly come the following season, and we're sitting there going, hang on a minute, we've lost our first choice shot stopper. Now who are we going to bring in?
Well, maybe they've not offered Fab more than a year because obviously he's getting some more injuries last couple of years. That might be something to do with it.
That's a shout. It's definitely a shout. It's yeah, you are right. I mean, other than Craig Dawson probably stepping on his elbow, he hasn't been picking up a few hips here and there. But yeah, look, I mean, the keeper thing. I mean, we've got 2 on the bench every single week, but in terms of quality, I do think now we're going to have to start really looking into the market and think, like Dennis says, maybe even bring someone in the summer, because I think that's going to be ultimately the person that's going to replace Fabianski.
I think. Obviously, I'm just sorry, Charles. I'm obviously just relieved that first of all that we've got him for any length of time. You know, another season, but I think Bill's right. You know, there's obviously a few questions around injuries. Obviously, he's ageing and he's picked up a few injuries, and I think it's probably a deal that is better for the club than it is for the player because you know, there's not so much commitment there. He's not like he's really got a resale value if he was on a 2-year deal and they wanted to cut it short. But at the end of the day, we've got him for another season, and we can be grateful for that. I'd like to see, much like what we did with Jääskeläinen and Adrian, where they were a 1-2 for a while, and UC sort of was training him up. You could see he was influencing him, and then passing the gloves. And I'd like to see that sort of arrangement again, because I think Fab's got a lot of experience to give, and he seems like he's a top fella as well, and probably really take someone under his arm and sort of bring him up to Premier League speed. So. hopefully, you like Dennis said, you probably need a second year of Fabianski for that to really happen. So hopefully, he has a good season, stays fit, and he does sign another extension. But we'll see, won't we?
Would you look to bring in, like, possibly, like Dennis alluded to, like the Trot and Anang, and I know there's another youth keeper. Would you maybe look at trying to bring them in as almost a backup? Because for me, I know Randolph is there, but I just think long term, how long is he going to stay at Wam? I can't see him succeeding Fabianski.
Well, I think this time, this coming season, that those boys, Trot and Anang, have both got to be playing week in, week out at a level, a senior level, a championship for Trot at least. I think their development at youth levels pretty much come to a head, isn't it? So there's no good them sitting on the bench. I think we're right to still have Randolph and whoever else is a third keeper, but the boys, I think, have got to be out there getting development, senior football, and like I say, if Fab was to stay for another season, that would be ideal to blood one of them in. I think that's when you can have them as a 1-2, and halfway through the season, maybe swap over, or when Fab gets an injury or it dips, we'll see how you go. But you do need 2 years for that.
Yeah, exactly. Charles?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not too keen on what I've seen from Trot. I've seen him at under 23 level a couple of times, and I mean, he seems like a decent keeper. I don't think he's the next big West Ham number one keeper. Maybe his development's come a long way in the last year, but I would definitely be looking toward maybe not this summer, but definitely without a doubt next summer, getting a keeper for the long term in. I've said before, I'm a big fan of Sam Johnston, especially if we can get him cheap from West Brom. I mean, obviously we have that connection with Slavia and their Klar, but I think they're sort of a bit more reluctant to let him go. So yeah, I mean, I would personally look to get a proper decent first team keeper in as soon as Fab does go. I mean, the thing is that the next season it's his position to lose. He's been one of the best keepers this club's had in a very long time, and so yeah, it's really good news that we've got him tied down to another year. And if that's as long as he stays at this club, then so be it. But he's done a lot of good service for this club.
Yeah, and I think as well, like, depending on his injury record, and I know it's kind of been maybe past year or so has been a bit suspect, but a year gives us a little bit of flexibility. If he does have an injury-free season next season, then you can keep him on possibly for another year and then bring someone. The young keeper thing is strange because I think we've got so many keepers kicking around, but like a lot of you have said, Trot needs to go out and have a full season. I think he went to Wimbledon, didn't he? And he only had, I think, maybe half a season and he got injured, and then you've got Anang that no one's really seen. It's like, our under-23s need to be going out a lot more frequently and getting a bit of experience. Because to be fair, especially as a goalkeeper, there's so amount of limited opportunities for you to actually get on the pitch.
We've had that for years. We've had loads of highly talented young keepers: Jake Larkins, Marek Stech, the other Hungarian lad, Peter Krutz. They all come through. Raphael Spiegel all come through and never really developed, and their careers, been okay. They've gone on and had careers, but they've not really appeared for West Ham, let alone have a career. It could be, again, with the 1 year thing. It could be. I forgot to mention earlier, but his compatriot Lukasz Fabianski at Bologna has been linked with us heavily in the Italian media. 29-year-old keeper, pretty solid. Maybe he could be a stopgap until Trot's ready. Who knows? That could be a year. Reason why it's a 1 year deal. Apparently only available for 9-10 million. So well within our price range.
I think that's more what I'm thinking is, like, we need a long-term replacement, but then at the same time, I think this summer's going to be crucial in terms of getting in a centre midfielder, getting in a striker, and I'm starting to think, how much money are we going to be able to go out and say we'll give someone 20 mil? And I think a lot of the people that are being discussed aren't as a higher sort of finance. I think Sam Johnston, if they go down, you're probably looking at maybe 10. I think Areola as well, if you can try and pinch him off because he's not permanently down to Fulham. Again, someone else that you could look at. I think 10, 15 mil for a kind of a keeper around maybe 28, 29, who's still got those prime years to go, is probably where West Ham need to be looking.
It's where I don't believe there's 20 million for Dean Henderson or 25.
It's 40 mil, isn't it? It's a lot of money.
What talking about is apparently we buy him for 25 million with a really cheap buyback clause for whenever he's ready in like 2-3 years' time. Apparently, they proposed it to proposed something similar to Sheffield United this year, and they said, "Now we'll get Ramsdale." That's worked out well.
Lee spoke about Ramsdale, honestly. But would anyone take a sort
That's
of?
probably who will end up with Ramsdale.
Don't even go there, Mark. Honestly, no.
You don't even joke about that, mate.
No, don't.
You can see it a mile off. It'll be a typical Sullivan special, won't it? He's all right. We'll get him on the cheap, I'm just saying there's some of the prices for Johnson. He'd be the one I'd go for. I've been very good this year. But you can just see it'll just be a Sullivan special. We can sign Ramsdale for 4 million or something ridiculous like that, and that's where we'll end up going. And
Joe Hart
someone said they will end up with another like Randolph, Roberto situation with Ramsdale, won't we? I think that's fair to say.
Well, I think you're out of order referring him to Roberto. I mean, that's an insult.
I'm going to say I've got a new opinion of Roberto. I've got a whole new opinion of Roberto. I saw a tweet today that summed it up perfectly. People hating the guy, but he got rid of Pellegrini single-handedly, and the Moisaya has come in, and now we're challenging for Europe. Roberto is West Ham's Kaiser Soze. I'm telling you, he's masterstroke, absolute masterstroke.
Yeah, he's
interesting.
Ramsdale's not the best keeper, is he? But he ain't quite that bad, and he hasn't had a lot of support this year from his defence, has he? But I think Sam Johnston top choice for me. Either of the Newcastle keepers, they can keep one and give us the other.
Yeah.
They're both brilliant, and I can't see them both staying there next season because Darlow's come in. Dubravka was the best keeper in the league last year, and Darlow's come in and was absolutely having it off and keeping Dubravka out of the team. So one of them's got something's got to give, and if they were to go down, then they ain't going to keep hold of either of them, are they?
Yeah, it's a shout. Unfortunately, I think like we are going to end up going for some of those relegated sides players. And I don't think that's a bad thing because I think if Fulham went down, they got some great players that you could go and pinch. But that's a massive shout just because of the situation at Newcastle. And I don't think Carl Darlow is actually too happy about being kept out of the side now. Obviously, he had some good form earlier in the season, but it's going to be interesting, lads. I thought someone spoke then. I didn't want to interrupt. Let's talk about Craig Dawson. Why not? He scored the second goal on Monday evening. I've been cut up and put in a video saying how he would never be a top centre half, and he is. And I can't really lie about it. I've done some digging on some stats. We're going to talk about him for England, but I compared him to Eric Dyer, the players that are currently in there: Dyer, Stones, Maguire, and Keane. And in terms of the stats per 90 so far, he's the second for being the least dribble passed across the 90 minutes. And he's obviously above Stones, Maguire and Dyer in that sense. Then he's the second most successful in terms of his defensive pressures as well. So, and then finally, he's second for tackles and interceptions per 90 against all of those players that I've just mentioned. And so statistically, he should really be in that England squad. Lads, first and foremost, does it need to be said, do you think he should be in there and about? Because for me, I can't see anything in his game that would suggest, maybe other than mobility and pace, that he shouldn't be in and around there.
If he'd played like this for the last couple of seasons, yeah, but it's only, I'd say this is probably the best I've seen him play. He played decently at times at West Brom and Watford, but this is the best I've seen him play. So it's probably a bit too late for him, to be honest.
Oh.
I actually still think he can make it. I don't think it's likely to happen, but I just saw an article on. I think someone tweeted an article from the Athletic saying that apparently is now definitely keeping tabs on him.
Yeah.
Why not? Because he's just been outstanding. I mean, he's very. I mean, I said it on the watch along on Monday. He's very. Very close to being my hammer of the year, even though he only joined sort of like midway through the season. But he has made that much of an impact, and Monday night just proved how much of an impact he can have on the team. He's absolutely lethal from set pieces. He's just an absolutely top-class defender from what we've seen thus far. And he seems to have a really good, mentality and good work rate. So, I mean, those are all things that you'd want from your from your centre backs, and if he's one of the top one of those in the country right now, then I think there certainly should be a shout for him to get on the plane. Whether it will happen or not, I don't know. But surely Southgate's got to be looking at him and saying, right, he's really impressing. Is he a better option than Maguire or Stones or someone like that? Maybe not, but is he better than someone like Dyer? Like, absolutely. I think
that's what I mean. That's exactly the point, isn't it? I don't think Eric Dyer's pulling up trees, and if Southgate is so persistent on playing a back three, I can think of worse players to put in there, particularly alongside the likes of a John Stones that we know is great on the ball. And I just think the fact the stats saying that Dawson doesn't really get dribble past, we always worry about, is he a bit slow? Actually, he's reading the game very, very well. So I just wonder, and I think like the Athletic said, Southgate's possibly keeping tabs on him. And I think between now and the next 2 months will be really, really interesting, because if there's a major injury to a Michael Keane or a Dyer, then surely he's up there, particularly when you're picking 3 centre-backs.
Yeah, I'd, if it was up to me, I'd have him in the squad.
Yeah, it's a fair point.
But whether Southgate would pick him is another issue. I mean, obviously he picks Jordan Pickford, not necessarily because of his goalkeeping abilities, but because of his distribution and his kicking. I'd pick Dean Henderson personally, but obviously, Southgate picked Pickford at the World Cup, and he's picked him ever since. So, do you know what I mean? And if that's the case for a goalkeeper, I think he's going to pick Stones, and rightly so, and then he'd probably pick Maguire. And obviously Dawson's not the best, I wouldn't say the best on the ball, so that's probably why he won't be picked or in the squad. But I'd certainly include him, definitely.
Yeah, no, because he has got his favourites, hasn't he, Southgate? So there's ways that to come into it.
Pretty much every, going into any Euros or World Cup, there's always a player that ends up gate crashing a squad at this late stage. Well, yeah, we didn't do anything.
That was an early stage, let alone a late one.
There's certainly guys like Michael Owen and even Gaza as well, for you youngsters, if you can think that far back on it. I think he's in with a good shout of getting in the squad. If it was down to me, I'd certainly have him ahead of Dyer. I don't think Dyer, for me, is virtually fallen off of a cliff. He was, this fantastic player a few years ago, and he's gone.
Yeah, in midfield as well, Mark. I don't think Dyer's a centre back anyway. He's better in midfield.
And he's certainly not a top 4 centre midfield player either. Not for a team competing for that. I just don't think he's as good as what everyone thinks he is. But as for Dawson, also I think he's handy. Sometimes we've seen forward England not struggle in the final third at times, keeping hold of the ball. We saw it particularly in that game against Croatia in the last World Cup. So Dawson, as we know, is obviously a fantastic threat from set pieces, and that throws another equation in there. And just off the back of what you were saying with stats, he's got 4 goals in all competitions this year, which is a brilliant record anyway for a defender. But if you think how few games he played to get there in comparison to some of the others that you mentioned on the list there, it's even more impressive. The only drawback with him, I think has already been said, is his distribution isn't the greatest. And obviously his lack of mobility. If he was in a one-on-one situation, we would probably be a little bit worried. Although obviously positionally he does more often not can get himself out of that sort of scenario. But I think he definitely deserves to be in that squad, because on current form, why would you not want to pick him?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, isn't it, to see what Southgate goes with. You'd imagine he will go with a back 3 like he has done in pretty much all of the sort of Nations League game. He's not going to start changing it, but I kind of look at it and think, I don't really see him asking, Maguire or Stones necessarily to step out with a ball. And if you're playing Rice or Henderson, I always think in that sense, it's like you're just minimising the kind of weakness of Dawson. Listen, I don't think he'd start, even if he did get in for whatever reason. I think he would purely be a backup. But I think we all touched on it. Set pieces, particularly in international tournaments, if you've got someone to put it on a sixpence, he will take that advantage, because I thought the goal he scored against Leeds was brilliant, and the little movement he does in and out, and he sold Llorente. And I think we're all in agreement we'd love to have him there. Whether Southgate is going to pick him or not is a different matter.
Yeah, I think it shouldn't even be a discussion for me. If you're picking on form, then you're picking Stones straight away, first name on the sheet, aren't you? And Maguire and Keane and Dawson. That is it. There isn't Dyer doesn't. We don't know what his best position is still. And
Mings as well.
Mings. You've got Mings. The only other two I can think of with Sanchez injured is Mings and Cody. Cody's there having a stinker.
I wouldn't have Cody.
Mings, I just Dawson's playing better, isn't he? It's as simple as that. Obviously, Mings is younger, and I think he's a left footer.
He's left footed, yeah.
Wilson, Maguire, and Stones are all right footed. So Dyer doesn't know what footed he is, I don't think.
Just heads the ball, Jeff, didn't he?
Yeah. It's not even up for discussion. And then when you add in his goal for it, and you're 1-0 down in the semi-final with 10 minutes left, what are you going to do? You need people in the box that are going to be able to do that. So I think it's an absolute winner. He probably doesn't start every game, but I don't understand why you wouldn't pick him based on what we've seen this season.
That's what I mean, though. Like, I think the options might be Walker at centre back, because I think he's thrown him in there a few times. Mings as well. I think they've got errors in them. Walker gets away with a lot of errors, by the way, because of his pace. I think Mings is good. Mings is a little bit good in the air, but I still think someone can get past him. And I just looked at the stats and compared them, and I thought Dawson doesn't really get he just reads the game very well, and he's obviously a little bit older, and I think that might help us. I know he hasn't had international experience, but I think just an older head maybe in there.
Yes, with Great Britain.
Oh yeah, sorry, I don't want to disrespect that competition.
You're right. He scored a penalty in the game they lost, didn't they, in the knockout? So definitely pick him. He can take a penalty, so he's got to go.
When it comes to Mings, thing for me, when the few times I've watched Villa, I've been more impressed with Konza all year round than Mings. Personally, I think Konza could be another sort of late shout, depending if he keeps or picks up his form, or if there are lots of injuries. I think Dawson has to be within a shout. Southgate isn't going to be looking at him if he isn't seriously considering it. And it's pretty refreshing for a manager to be reported as actually being interested, because going back to what me and Jeff and Bill went on last night, talking about Mark Noble, Roy Hodgson in 2016, when asked about Mark Noble being in the squad, he went, well, in 2012, people were saying that Grant Holt should be in the squad. Openly basically saying, you've got no chance, you're just having one good season, mate. Whereas at least Southgate is considering the option instead of dismissing it out of hand at a press conference. I think he'd be, if we keep going, especially if he keeps popping up with the odd goal, I reckon he will be on the plane. I don't think, like West Ham Clip said, I don't think he's going to be flying the plane, but
not.
Yeah, not. But I reckon he'll be on the plane. But I do think he'll be a squad player. I don't think he's going to be starting, because I think Southgate has players that he trusts, similar to Moyes' boys, as Gareth's guys. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Stones, Maguire, and Walker in a back three playing for England. That's how I reckon we're going to be playing if they're fit, because that's who he likes to play. And I think Tyrone Mings is definitely ahead of the pecking order. So Dawson would be 4th/5th choice, depending if it's 4 or 3 at the back. For me, I don't think Eric Dyer can justify going based on current form, but there's 11 games of the season left.
If he picks Dyer over, I wouldn't be surprised by it. Actually,
you say what you like about Dyer, but he scored the penalty that won the shootout against Colombia, and we owe him for that. Now, please don't come back into the squad.
He nearly missed it, though.
Thank you.
He's more of a shout for the midfield role. If Henderson doesn't manage to get himself back to fit and back fit and push himself through to the end of the season, Dyer could be a shout as a sort of utility player that can jump into midfield. Just we'd be short a little bit of holding midfield. It would just be right, really, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
If you think about it, we've got plenty of West Ham players that are in with a shout. Sorry, Charles, just say this quickly, because like Dawson, Rice are the serious contenders. But you've got an outside chance for Mickey if he doesn't select Jamaica already. You've got an outside chance for Lingard, depending on his form. And there could be an argument for Aaron Cresswell. So it could be 5 of us. So admittedly, one's on loan.
I think you've got more chance of us 5 going.
Do you know what, the Lingard one?
I think I've declared for Switzerland, Jeff. Sorry.
In theory, there's way too many players in front of him. But sometimes I think about Southgate, and particularly with his favourites. I can't see it happening, but I just think West Ham players, despite how well we played this, are a bit on the reserve list. You'd need quite a few to go down and be injured for us to get in there. Other than Declan,
the exception of Deck,
Yeah, Declan's a guaranteed starter for me. I don't think there can be too many complaints about that. But I wouldn't mind Dyer. I don't mind Dyer in midfield. I mean, he's played there before. If you're going to try and switch it up, or there aren't enough players, but defence, centre back, not for me. Sorry, Charles, I interjected, mate.
No, I mean, I was going to say about Dyer, I don't want to focus too much on Dyer because, he's bloody Spurs. But, I mean, one of the best performances I've seen in an English shirt recently was against Germany a couple of years back, and he was sensational back then. So, there definitely is ability within him. But, as you said, defensively, why would you even consider picking him over someone like Dawson, who's, as Jeff said, on form and playing well? So you might as well, take him on the plane. But again, like it's been mentioned, Gareth has his guys set pretty much in stone, unless there's a massive change in events. But you can expect there to be a back three of Walker, Maguire, and Stones, or potentially even Dyer in there somehow. But yeah, I mean, Dawson should definitely be considered. There's no doubt about that.
Have we got qualifiers coming up, by the way? Isn't that round the corner?
Yeah, because the World Cup qualifiers are going on now, yeah.
See, look, I think if Dawson's going to even stand a chance, he's possibly, he maybe calls him up just to see what he's like. If he doesn't, enough for me, that's it. But I just wanted to get to sort of speak about it, because when I looked at the stats, I thought it's all easy to go, Dawson, you got Maguire. And it's like, actually, he's up there. Per 90, he's up there in terms of his performances. So we'd all love to see it, let's be honest. If we got Craig Dawson on that plane, it'd be absolutely beautiful. Not to make too many people cry before we leave. I know 3 of you have already discussed it, but obviously Mark Noble did announce that he will be leaving. Hopefully he's retiring, not going anywhere else after next season. It's a sad one, boys. I've got to be honest. I think we knew this day was coming. Performances wise, naturally he has declined. He's played a number of years for West Ham, week in, week out, and I'm just happy now he signed a year where we can get back in the stadium and say goodbye properly. And to be fair, I think that's, from what I can gather, that's a little bit of his logic behind the deal. So I just want to come to you generally speaking about the 1 year deal. Happy with it? Just really an opportunity, isn't it, to say goodbye?
Yeah, it's an opportunity to say goodbye. I mean, I personally believe, and again, Jeff and Bill will start bleeding because I heard this last night, but I reckon he's not done as a footballer at the end of this deal. The wording is key. He says he still thinks he's got a lot to give. I think he just acknowledges that it's not going to be at West Ham, and it's possibly for the best for him to move on rather than sitting on the bench for the last 2 years of his career. But he wants to say goodbye to the fans, so that's why it's a 1 year deal. It wouldn't surprise me that either he rocks up. Okay, I don't like the term rocking up. I don't mean any disrespect. I mean, he turns up playing for, let's say, Charlton, Southend, hopefully not Millwall.
Where would he go?
A lower league local team, or going to America for some sunshine, or maybe even China.
Yeah, no, I don't. Look, that's perfect, Dennis, because I said it beforehand. The wording, I think, was key. I think the fact that he said, I've still got a lot to give, I'm still fit, I'm still active. And I think he's always, even probably through the past 2 or 3 years, he's still said exactly the same thing. He doesn't feel like there is really a decline, but it's just, I can't see him playing for anyone else. It'll be a bit weird. I don't think I could get my head around it. Fair play to him if he wants to do it, but surely not at another Premier League club.
I think it would be... Sorry, Mark, go ahead.
Cheers, thanks. I think I kind of agree there with what Dennis was saying about a couple of the destinations. I think Charlton's a great shout, obviously, because of Lee Bowyer. And I think as well America. Again, I don't think China will happen, and he definitely won't be at Southend. I'm not sure they'll be in the Football League the way they're going. But I think Charlton and America would make a great shout. It's obviously a shame that it's going to be his last season next year, because he is, he's that rare breed in the modern game. The one club man. He's been a fantastic player for us. I think in recent years, his performances have dipped. I think that's because he just can't get around the pitch as much and influence things. But it's great that he's going to get that opportunity, I think, to be able to say goodbye to the fans. And I wholeheartedly agree with the decision to give him that 1 year deal. And once he does eventually decide to pack up, I think it's been said, I think he's going to have another couple of seasons potentially. whatever role he wants at West Ham, obviously with the exception of the manager's job at this moment in time, West Ham should make sure that he's given that role. Now, whether or not that's a coach in the academy team or he becomes the under-23 manager or whatever, keep him involved in the club, because you can't buy what it means. You know, he'll be able to, for the future generations coming through, tell them what it means to not just be a Premier League footballer, but also what it means to us as supporters for a player coming through our academy. I think that's really vital. And I know in recent years we've obviously got better at that with the likes of Zavon Hines and Jack Collison getting involved. If you look at this traditionally, it's an area that we have massively struggled in. When we've allowed, sort of, I guess if you want the best way of calling him, he's a bit of a club legend. And not utilising them properly.
Yeah, it's such a. When I think he's that kind of last link to the bowling a little bit. That's just how I feel. Like even the way he talks about the club, and he did it in his interview on the channel, and he said like there's a certain sort of ethics and the way that the club needs to be, and you those people are invaluable. To have a guy that's played 500 games for West Ham and captain and all that stuff, he's got to be involved in whatever capacity. For me, again, I think coaching. I'm not even sure he really wants to do it yet, but get him in and around the academy. I think is absolutely golden.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, like I don't know why people are suggesting other clubs. I think he's going to retire next year. I think it's going to be the end of his football career, and I think it should be as well, because I love Mark Noble. I was there at his first senior goal when he scored in the FA Cup against Brighton. I remember it. But yeah, I mean, I just I don't see why he would want to go anywhere else and play. I think he's done, his playing career is done after next year, and I think he's going to be a massive asset for hopefully us going into the future, whether that be coaching or whether that be academy development or whatever. But I think it's clear to see that Mark Noble does not have the legs anymore, and I've joked that he hasn't had legs he doesn't have the legs for the Premier League level. I mean, I seriously doubt he even has legs for Championship or League One level. That's how much I think he's regressed in the last year or so.
Do you think he's regressed that much, mate?
I think he has. I think the quality is still there. I think he's a decent technical player, and he showed in the last game he played. I think he's technically one of the most gifted players we've had at the club in terms of how well he's done. But I just think his legs just can't. I just don't think he's got legs for it anymore. I think that's just the most important. That's one of the most important assets of a footballer's profile at the moment. So I do expect him to be playing his last season of football full stop next season. And I also think it'd be just great for sentimental value as well. The fact that he's played his whole career as pretty much a one club man, minus obviously the loans at the start of his career. But I think it'd just be a great way to kind of bookend his career and move on to new pastures, whether that be coaching or whatever. But I personally don't see him playing past next year.
I've got to be honest. Like this is just me. Like again, I'm not getting away from it. He has declined, but when he come on against United in the cup and he just sat a little bit deeper, I thought he was all right. And I think if you could find him a club where he's going to play, I think we've mismanaged him a little bit. Like in terms of what Moyes has asked him to do at times, it's not his game. He can't do it, but I think maybe he's got maybe 1 or 2 seasons in a certain role at a certain club. But I know what you mean, Charles. The intensity of the Championship is a fair shout. You'd have to really cater for him in the squad.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, I mean, the Championship is one of the toughest leagues in the country. It's one of the toughest leagues to play in Europe because of the intensity and how hard you have to work for it. But yeah, I mean, look. Whatever he decides to do, I'll be following, admirably, and I'll definitely be keeping an eye on him. But I just don't see him leaving just for sentimental reasons as well. He's a very emotional guy, and I can't imagine that he'll want to leave. Pretty much after taking West Ham close to European places and and a good Premier League season. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. And obviously the call is down to him. But And yeah, I mean, I'm just upset that we're going to be losing Mark Noble. You know, he's just been such a servant at his club. You know, one of the first West Ham shirts I had was Noble on the back, and you know, when he does go, I mean, I think everyone's going to be in absolute tears, and grown men are going to be crying, and it's just going to be a very emotional day for everyone.
Yeah, we're gonna have to win that FA Cup next season, lads, aren't we? For Mark Noble, let's be honest. You can't let him go out like this. Got to give him a bit of silverware.
Yeah, definitely. Perfect way to send him off.
Yeah, no. Jeff, thoughts on Nobes, mate? Got a little bit more in the gas tank for you, or
That was a shocker. I can't believe it. I've just
trying to get over that one.
I can't believe it. Noble not good enough for League One. My God, I'm horrified. Yeah, I don't think
he doesn't have the legs.
Well, yeah, whichever. Like, can't play the level. You know, I know what you mean. So I don't mean to misrepresent what you said. Yeah, I think I wholeheartedly disagree across the board there. Really, I think he's still. I think he will. I think he's still got more football to play if he wants to play. I don't think there'll be any sentiment about, but I don't want to play for anyone other than West Ham, because at the end of the day, football's a short career, and you've got to get the most out of it, And I think he ain't going to retire at 35. Sorry if I'm wrong by a year, I don't know, but 35.
Yeah, 34, 35, I think.
I think if he wakes up every morning itching to get to the training ground and play football and looks forward to Saturday afternoons, then he's going to play football. Championship, maybe. It's criminal to say that he couldn't play in League One. But I do think, like what Dennis said, I think he's not worried about money probably at this stage. And he doesn't strike me as someone that would fancy China for all that money either. I think I could see him, again, at a Southend if they manage to sort their act out, or, somewhere around League One, League Two sort of level, playing local, being a big part of the club, and it's almost part-time hours probably doing that for what he's used to. So, he'd probably still be able to have some sort of involvement with West Ham and still be around. And obviously the future surely lies at West Ham long-term for the rest of his working life, hopefully. I'd love to have him around the academy. I think that's definitely the starting point. And then obviously how he develops as a coach from there is down to him. But he's got to start at the academy, I think. But imagine having him as to look up to when you're a kid coming through.
Well, that's the thing. I think that link between West Ham fans and the club, that is Mark Noble. Like, he's kind of that guy where we look at him and think he is West Ham. And at times we've been taken away from like bowling, and we've been through this loads of times. But he's that guy, and I still look at him and think that's the link. We need him in there to impart a bit of knowledge, or even just what it means to play for West Ham and keep that going. I'd love him to be a coach, if I'm honest. I'd absolutely love Nobes to be a manager.
We want him to go all the way, didn't we? Surely we want him as if he's up to the job, that is. Because, he doesn't mean he's going to be the best manager because he's the best player. But if he's up to it and he does well, which I feel like he's the sort of guy that when he focuses on something will achieve his goals, hopefully he is our manager, in 10 years' time, he's our manager. That'd be fantastic.
Different gravy, mate.
Spoiled for choice, aren't we? Parker, Noble, to a lesser extent, Bowyer. Spoiled for choice right now for next.
Parker would be an interesting one, I think, in a couple of years after more ended. Tony says Nobes won't play for another club in England. I just look at the statement. I think he wants to play football. I think that's the thing. I didn't get any impression from what he said that I'm hanging it up. And sometimes you do, and it's like, yeah, I know he said about the level before. I think he said, look, I can't do what I used to do type thing. So he's aware, but I think he still thinks. I think technically he's got it. It's just, as Charles says, it's the legs. And it's about finding the right club for him. Charlton might be a brilliant shout, because I think Lee Bowyer's there and he got that link and he's going to play him, or he'll be in and around. And I actually think it might be beneficial if he does become a coach, who does a little bit behind the scenes with Lee or something like that, and we get him back at West Ham and he's almost got a little bit of experience behind him. Interesting question here from Anil as well. Would you keep Nobes as captain next season, or would you fully give it over to Declan?
We spoke about this yesterday, didn't we?
Yeah, we saw it as they keep it as it is.
Go on, tell us what you had. That's what went on. Keep it as it is.
Personally, I don't keep it as it is. I think it works perfectly. Sorry, Bill.
No, exactly. Like, obviously, Mark's the club captain and Declan's the captain on the pitch. So why change it?
Yeah, no, I don't think it affects anything, because I think Dennis, Charles, we had this discussion earlier in the season, wasn't it, about maybe when Noble comes on to just leave it with Declan. I wouldn't mind that, but
it's a hierarchy thing. I like it. And I said last night on Bill's channel, I remember Rio Coker doing the same thing for Christian Daly in our first season in the Premier League. I remember seeing that on television. When Daly came on for like a 5-minute run out one game, he gave him the armband. So
I think Noves' role probably with Declan now as captain is probably massively underplayed. I'm sure he's sort of guiding him with it and helping him out.
Yeah.
The way Declan leads is perfect.
Well, again, what you said after the game against Leeds, that was just, that's the sort of interview you'd expect from Mark Noble, not Declan Rice. He's certainly, he's young. He's still young, but he's very mature in footballing terms, in my opinion. Obviously having a polite little dig out of Jesse Lingard, but that's just because they're getting along fine. But genuinely answered the questions and didn't shy away and didn't give, a non-answer address. Yeah, well, next time I'll be taking him. He sounded like a leader at the end of that game.
It's mad, isn't it? He's 22. He's younger than me, and he's out there captaining West Ham. Unbelievable. Let's wrap this one up, lads. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you all for joining the lads as well. Great stuff tonight. Really, really enjoyed that one. Make sure you drop a like on the stream. Make sure you check out the West Ham Way and subscribe if you're new. Put a Patreon link, of course, because it is linked with X and Dave, so make sure you check that out in the description. I'll put this up into little chapters so you can check it out later if you haven't seen it. And until next time, take care.